What is up, everybody? And we're back. We're doing my final collective event review. We're finally wrapping up the series I've been doing on the collective. I think this is video number 6. This should be a short and sweet review, but yeah, let's get into it. First off, this is Joey Janela's Spring Break presents the Immortal Clustf 2026. Live from the Horseshoe Casino in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. First airing live on April 17th, 2026 at 12 a.m. Pacific time. I say specific time, but it's Pacific time. Now, this was a 4-hour show, but it really only had 2 matches. We'll get into that. We had the match that I personally was wanting to watch for this show. We had the Hardcore Heaven cage match for the Ultraviolent Championship. This story has been building up ever since Matt Tremont lost the belt, and I believe it was January. Sorry, my mustache hairs are getting in my mouth, and it's bugging me. So this match, again, was just the culmination of this feud, or at least now. The Bulldozer, Matt Tremont, versus your ultra-violent champion, evil Incarnate Otis Cogar. This just all around good overall match. Fists start flying right at the beginning, right after the ring introductions. One of the most notable things is Adam Gault, who's the ref on the outside, goes to start locking the cage. As soon as Otis enters, MOJ just looks at him, don't fucking lock me in here. Just the panic in his eyes. Don't fucking do that. I don't want to be in here with these 2 fucking psychos. But yeah, fists start to fly at the beginning of the match. Eventually gets to the point where Otis goes to charge at Tremont. Tremont, I don't know why he just didn't sidestep him or roll, but Tremont goes to leapfrog Cogar. They kind of get caught up on each other, and as Tremont kind of finishes his leapfrog, Otis kind of awkwardly rolls and lands in the pane of glass they were charging at. And he gets a nasty cut on his arm. Unfortunately, I would, take a screenshot and show it to you, but that might get me flagged on YouTube. That would be a gore violation, I believe, is what it would be. But yeah, that in the days post, Otis came out and on his socials and said that his arm did get badly infected from that spot. So he had to pull out of the next couple of GCW dates. I don't know if he had any other dates that he had to pull out of, but he had to at least pull out of the next couple of dates that he had booked. But then but he just pulls up his elbow pad, arm pad over it after pulling, I guess, the piece of glass out, which that happens. It's inevitable. You're working with glass that can shatter just in weird ways. This just happened to hurt Cogar. Then they go just back and forth. It's hard. It's hard to recap these things very linearly without just move, recap the moves, move, recap the moves. I have, after eating some tubes and the fork, Because Tremont gets his fork out and starts carving up Cogar. Cogar answers with a tube shot, then sends Tremont barreling off the top rope through a barbed wire board or door. It's hard to tell if they were just boards or if they were doors. I think it might have been just solid, not solid, but doors that didn't have like your traditional imprint on them. Cogar lays another pane of glass on Tremont, just slaps the chair at it, doesn't shatter. This is the most gruesome visuals you will ever see. Just a pane of glass just not shattering from a chair shot. It then goes around, grabs the chair again, hits it a second time. The glass explodes all over the place. The visual is excellent. The Tremont sells up and just kind of hulks up for a second. And then just plants his butt back down. And then using that same chair, Otis just kind of, with horse collar, he just laughs that chair that just wraps around his neck. It is just the visual of it. Oh my god. Otis then grabs the Thumbtack bat and just bats Tremont with him. This kind of standard deathmatch thing. Fun fact that I don't know in what match, but the proprietor, but one of the guys that does the Game Changer World podcast live on Game Changer Wrestling's YouTube channel actually made Thumbtack bats that were too violent, like him and his wife. Like, they did the tape, and then they also super glued the thumbtacks onto the bat, and thumbtacks wouldn't just ping off, they would stay. The visual is they're meant to be hit, and then they ping off. But they were just too violent, according to deathmatch guys. So, yeah. And then after that, after unloading the thumbtack bat on the Tremont, he grabs his trusty razor blade and just starts carving Tremont up. Standard stuff for Cogar. And then eventually he goes for the webbing of the fingers. And as he's carving the head, he's picking the tacks off. I always find that visual funny. He's just picking tacks off with this razor blade, inflicting more damage, but essentially helping him for later on in the cleanup process. Then then tubes just start flying by Cogar, ending with a tube being broken over the chest, mouth area. Because he kind of grabs a tube, kind of taunts it around Tremont's face, but then he ends up breaking it down here on his chest, and they call it breaking over his face on commentary. But whatever. One of those little things. After Miss Senton through a door. Let me catch up where my did the fly. Catching back up on my notes because I'm kind of recapping it very slow but fast. After a Miss Senton and a Death Valley driver through a barbed wire door. By Otis, Tremont tapes Otis to the ropes, much like they did in Hartford, to take him out for a couple weeks. I think he had a herniated disc in his back because he was supposed to do cruel, and he's getting ready to be clotheslined over the top rope, and he just didn't go. His back just gave out. They had to write him off somehow, and that was how they did it. Which is one reason why this whole revenge plot works. Then Tremont, much like they did to him, he just starts unloading an entire full box of tubes onto Cogar. But then, as soon as he starts doing that, Vandal 48 comes out and just Atticus, you can see on the entrance side, jumps, shakes the cage, jumps onto the apron, shakes the cage more. Tremont goes and just hucks a tube straight at Atticus's face, and just it shatters against the side of the cage. Atticus obviously jumps down in time, but it was just the visual. Even though they were shooting it from the side, it would be cool to see if anybody has any sort of shot from the entrance side, because he came out of the entrance way. If there's a shot from that angle, just as the two just shattering against the side of the cage, that'd be very cool to see. Atticus eventually attacks referee Adam Gault and grabs the cage key, while Napier is on the other side climbing a ladder, putting the Vandal 48 flag that he carries over the back of the chair of the barbed wire, because there's barbed wire in at least a couple of the corners of the top of the steel cage, more for a visual thing than anything. And yeah, on the backside, and then Atticus almost eats a flying two, flying into the side of the cage, but jumps down in time, retrieves the key from Adam Gault, and Napier climbs the cage using the Vandal 48 flag to go over the barbed wire lining. Otis, they beat down Tremont. Atticus cuts him loose. Which I think the way they did this is he just used the gig he uses later in the match to cut him loose from the electric tape. They beat him down, get him set up. Otis misses a moonsault from the top of the cage. Excellent visual on this. Tremont then takes out Napier and Atticus by taping them to the turnbuckle. And by the turnbuckle, I mean literally he taped them to the turnbuckle. He taped them into the corner. And then lays both of them out with a chair shot. The one excellent thing, which I think they could have shot it from the other side, it would have been a little bit better, in my opinion, is you see like Atticus like kind of talking shit to him, but then he kind of reaches up, and this is where if you're wrestling, you know what he's doing. He's sitting here, he's getting ready to hit the gig to cut it so he can get that visual of the blood. Tremont domes him just right after he does that. Just an excellent visual in this. If they would have done it from the but if they would have just shot it from the other side of the cage, like through the cage, just to see that dome and then the blood just start. Like Atticus has openly said he doesn't really like to bleed anymore. He does the exact like it's something about the blood, and he did so many matches where he lost so much blood that he was actually getting iron deficiency from it. Then, but back to the match. Otis then eats a chair shot of his own, basically saying, "You're gonna have to kill me, motherfucker." Hit the frog, then they hit his Frogsplash through a big bundle of tubes. Tremont picks up the victory in this match. The visual of the pen, if somebody has a picture of that, because you just had all the spooky dust around this. It was like a big bundle, probably like I would say probably 15 to 20 tubes in this thing, even though like a little bit of the bottom ones were broken because Napier just kind of chucked a chair down at the mat after they started beating down Tremont. And yeah, so like, there was a couple broken tubes, but Otis kind of saw them because they were on the bottom side, with I think Matt rotated them to the bottom just for the safest thing they could do. And he kind of like avoided them at all costs because they were right there hanging by his arm. And that splash 1, 2, 3. This by far, up to videos I'm going to record literally right after this, became my second 5-star match I ever have reviewed. Or third. So they're second or third. Like, it's really, like, it's one of the first 5. And that list is just going to keep growing. But, yeah. Couldn't ask for anything better. Obviously, it took time to not only take the cage, but clean it out. Then we moved on to your main event for the evening, which is basically the match that took the longest. The cage match just went over 16.5 minutes. But this match, I'm not even going to bother to even try to give you, like, an entrance order or a blow by blow. If you want to know all the participants, please look at the description down below. I have them down there. Thank you, Cage Match, for having them all listed. But Shotzi Blackheart outlasted everybody in that match to win the Immortal Clustf match. That match went just over 2 hours and 50 minutes. One match, almost 3 hours. I personally wasn't going to watch it again, but if you want to go watch it, it's a very, very good match. You can't get any better. I gave the Clusterfuck itself 4 stars. This is obviously a very short and sweet review. Big shout out to GCW for running all these shows over the Collective weekend. The only major show I didn't really review was Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and I just didn't really, I caught pieces of it. I just didn't really enjoy it. Not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to fault anybody that did enjoy it. Like, the best thing I can remember was, Perro's Twink Gauntlet thing that he ran, where right at the end, they brought out Bear Bronson, they fought, and TPA ended up winning that match, and Effie took on Zack Sabre Jr. in a low-key banger. Not a typical Effie match, but he didn't do it to be a typical Effie match. You had Alley Catch doing her final GCW date, even though the previous night she had lost her GCW career. They had already settled, quote-unquote, on whoever loses will do at least the final commitment booking that they have for GCW, which was a Effie's Big Gay Brunch. So, yeah, like, I got 2 more GCW shows that just happened literally Friday and Saturday of the previous week that I'm recording this. So I will get those banged out, and yeah, like, I'm probably gonna go back and, like, rewatch and review ICW No Holds Barred, like, starting from the beginning and trying to watch it in order. Maybe not such the pit fighters, but at least the No Holds Barred events themselves. So that's the project. I want to do a little live reaction to Florida Deathmatch Carnival, which I did technically start filming, but apparently OBS, the recording software I use, doesn't like when you have 2 aspects open on the same device. So I got the face cam, but I didn't get the actual video, so I couldn't splice them together. So I'm going to just have to use my other streaming software, OBS Studio, or OBS Streamlabs OBS, to just use my streaming setup to do that sort of content. I'm glad I know that now. So I hope you enjoyed my collective collection, put it that way. Remember, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. Yeah. So until next time, peace.